That's what we do in the world of entrepreneurship, is how do we see the world differently than we see it today? So to do that, the first thing we have to accept is the words of, and I can't even say this guy's name, Shishimu Yukichiwawa of Toyota. He was the CEO a long time ago, and he said the most important thing of all in business: no problem is problem. No problem is problem. My father, who was a master sergeant, put it like this: if your advance is going too well, you are about to get ambushed. Right? And that's the reality. No problem is problem. Now, this guy I know better, right? Captain Jack Sparrow from the Disney movies. The problem is not the problem is your attitude about the problem. This could have, John Wayne could have said this every bit as easy, right, as Jack Sparrow, because that is ranching thinking, right? Because when we're in this world, we spend a lot of times figuring out it's our attitude about the problem that's going to dictate how that day goes, right? And guys, all of us know that we've failed on that occasion, and the woman of our dreams has left the premises because our attitude was not right. Right? My wife has shut down a branding and a AI deal all over bad attitude that needed corrected. 60 years. It is not easy to run a business for 60 years. I don't care what channel you're in. It's not easy to pull off. So this is a remarkable thing. And so I've been trying to think about, so in those 60 years, what all has happened that's changed? Right? Let's think about the changes. Well, there's been a lot of them. Way back when, this is how we did portable music. Right? Mobile phone the mobility was dictated by the length of the cord. And if you were a young guy in my community, you had to learn to speak in code to your girlfriend because you were on a party line. And Matt Deering at the general store down the road was the guy who listened to it all and then told the moms what was going on. Right? You know, long before we needed a national agency to determine what everybody was up to, hell, we had Matt Deering. He knew everything that was going on. Remember the search engine in its first form? Right? This is pre-Google. A word processor. Right? A lot's changed. And we don't really miss most of these things, do we? Right? The reality is, over this last 60 years, the speed of change has increased. Mario Andretti, the race car driver, says, look, if things seem under control, you're just not going fast enough. And that's how today feels like to many of us. So what's the aha moment in that? Why does all that matter? Well, what matters is that change is going to happen with or without our permission. Right? Charles Goodnight likely could not have imagined a zymatic center pivot to grow forage with. Might not have imagined that one. Probably wouldn't have imagined cotton this far north. Right? Change happens. Some of it good, some of it not so good, but it happens. And if we're not paying attention, it can hurt us as companies. Remember these guys? They were a big company, still in existence, fighting their way back out of bankruptcy, but they had, 20 years ago, 170,000 global employees. They were the worldwide leader. They had 80% market share in photographic paper, 80% market share. That's huge market share. And their vision was not completely off the mark because they created the first virtual camera. They just had a business model that said give the technology away for free, sell them the paper. They never imagined that people would give up making paper copies of their pictures. Right? And yet people did. So as Dee Hock, the founder of Visa, said, the problem is never how to get new ideas into your head, it's how to get the old ones out. And this is a problematic thing for those of us in the ranching world, because we've got to have historic knowledge because we work with the land. By the same token, though, the world changes. Right? Opportunities come along. I was raised in a Hereford family. My grandmother, when she talked about Noah's Ark, there was a Hereford bull called what was his, I can't remember that bull, Tarrington the First, and Wistful Miss was the heifer that got off with him off of the ark. And that is exactly how she told Noah's Ark story. The zebras, and then here came S. Tarrington the First and Wistful Miss. Right? I bought the first Angus cattle in our family. My grandmother did not talk to me for a year. Right? But they saved our business. They saved our business. So what it comes down to, and this is hard for guys like me, right? For Dr. Rusk and I, we live in the ivory tower, right? And not very well. That's why Clint's here and why I'm here, because we're not very good at that, really. We've had to learn that learning means forgetting. I did my PhD a long time ago in quantitative genetics, and we did a cool little mathematical thing nobody else had ever done before. And exactly 3 days later, this little German lady at the University of New England in Armidale, Australia, figured out how to do that same calculation faster, better, cheaper. I was king for exactly 72 hours. The ink hadn't even dried on my dissertation, and Karen Meyer had kicked me out of the captain's seat. It's a good lesson. It's a good lesson. It's the best thing that ever happened to me. So, what do we do with all this change stuff? What do we do with it? Well, I think we have to think about the lens through which we see the world. So, what do you see in this picture? Okay, how old is she? 35. Anybody see anything else? An old lady. That might be just on the other side of 35. We're in polite company. We can't say that she's old. She's mature, right? She's not as young as she once was. That's how my grandmother would put it. Can anybody see both of them? Okay, who can see both of them? You can? Come up here and show everybody which is which, real quick, would you? That's what you get for sitting up front.
Young woman, hair and chin. Old woman, nose and face and hat.
Everybody see it now?
Very good old woman.
Yeah, they're both there. But for some reason, some of us see one immediately and others see the other one, and then there's some who see them both pretty quickly. It's how we perceive things. And perception matters a lot. Okay. So you've probably seen one of these deals before. Like we're gonna connect some dots here, right? So if you've got 3 rows and 3 columns, equally spaced dots, start somewhere, put your pencil on there, and connect all the dots with 4 lines. Some of you might have a pencil, like she's going to work right. I can already tell she's going to get it right off the bat, and we're all going to go, oh man. Anybody else working on it? This is a fun one, right? Because, wow, what do? Can it be done? What's really funny is you do this with little kids like kindergartners, most of them will get it. Do it with high school kids, almost none of them, which is really weird. Let me show you real quick, just so. You have to violate a bunch of assumptions, don't you? To get it to work, you have to violate your assumptions. And what are the assumptions you have to violate? You got to go outside that box, right? It's dots. There are no lines, right? But you have to go outside of them to make it work. We immediately see the box. You're exactly right. And the older we get, the more immediately we see it.